So the defense here for the Gladiators is a pretty standard defense dive with hydration here. Bishu playing right next to the little choke point. Fisher playing nearby him as well. And the support's in the back. I'm sure Surefour is somewhere. I believe he's on point. Unfortunately, they never really get a chance to show off their dive because hydration dies immediately. So let's look at the fuel comp. The fuel comp is a pretty standard dive as well, with Soldier Zen. The two tanks and Effect are going to go in and complete their dive, while AKM and Custa are pretty much always going to be standing next to each other, like very tight-knit and close. Harry Hook is going to get the dive team going in and making sure to deter people from getting on his soldiers in combo. The idea entirely with this comp is to take space. It's a very tight-knit sort of thing, and the dive tanks never really go too far away from the soldier and Zen to make sure that they can continue peeling for them if they so need to.
Your dive composition, Tracer Genji on the side of the Gladiators. They're going to try and intercept as they hit to the side of the map. Harry,
somehow, man, he fights off hydration, gets the early bloodthirsty support duel there and wins it. Now they're going to go in. Mickey from the outside here, looping around the side.
So as you can see, the soldier and Zen play very tight-knit, and actually the D.Va stays behind a little bit just to make sure that no flankers come up and kill Custa before the fight even starts.
With the rest of his team, they're going to try to come in from the left, and Dallas waiting for that last member to come.
So knowing that they have a pick up, Fuel looks to get on point and take the space immediately. To do this, they speed over the mega room on the left, and they just head straight in. The tanks move forward to deter anybody from coming in. Those who do come in are met with the wrath of Effect, AKM, Custa, while the tanks continue making space for the rest of the team to take the point.
Back is going to be shorthanded for the moment. Now they lose Surefour. Great dive from XQC to take him down. That's one tick already for Dallas. Standing strong on the point. Fissure falls, and Gladiators just in.
Notice how anybody who walks in is just immediately melted. It's very hard to move back in with the amount of space that Fuel has taken. So anybody on the Gladiators team that goes in is just immediately brought down. So here's where we start to see a real strategy come into play. Aside from just a predetermined rotation in the event of some certain situation happening, which was hydration getting picked immediately, what Effect and XQC are doing effectively is looking to bait a dive from the enemy team. So they're going in alone with minimal support from the rest of their team, getting themselves down to a small amount of manageable HP that they can survive, get back, and continue the fight, and looking to bait a dive from the Gladiators. So what's going to happen here is that XQC is going to jump back with his low HP. I believe Fisher is going to follow him, and they're just gonna melt Fisher and whoever else tries to get on XQC. They even actually got Transcendence out, which is probably a misplay by the Gladiators, but they'll take it. So XQC goes back again, and he's going to immediately jump out, and this is going to bait the dive from the enemy team. As you can see, it looks like Fisher, Bishu followed, and I believe I see hydration there. So with that, we pop Transcendence, we pop Visor, and with the low HP Fisher and Bishu, and I believe hydration soon to follow, it's almost impossible for Gladiators to take this space back. This whole play, the win condition for Fuel was to get AKM on this god spot on this bridge here to bait the dive from the Gladiators and to eliminate them using their own mistakes.
High ground trying to make the tactical visor work. Hydration down, XQC with another one there. Somebody's got to jump on the point. Now's the time.
So this is kind of the point of no return, in which either somebody makes a play, and that play is something like the Gladiators getting a Widow or Hanzo or whatever, and eliminating AKM from the God spot, or just stalling for as much time as they possibly can. There's virtually no way that Fuel can lose this, because AKM's on the God spot, Custa's with him on the God spot to keep him protected. The tanks have taken control of point. There's almost virtually no way that Fuel could lose this fight.
They've got that perfect attack positioning. Oh, but they do lose XQC. A chance for the Gladiators to come back here. Yeah, and AKM falls. So the Gladiators.
Now, unfortunately, AKM died to the Winston. No one else was able to peel for him aside from Custa, which he was being a little deterred himself. So once AKM died, the fight was over for the Fuel. They lost their win condition, which was getting the soldier on the God spot and keeping him there uncontested for the most part. This is just a reset for the Fuel.
Mickey hit with the sleep dart on the point, so gonna take a bit of a nap. Hydration with a cleanup Dragon Blade, but everything was already about to be reset for the Dallas Fuel anyway, so that is an ultimate that could have been saved for the next one.
I was going to say it. It certainly puts an exclamation point on the end of that sentence, right? But it is probably an ult they wanted to hold on to for a bit longer here. Looking at the Dallas side now, Effect and XQC with their ultimates coming in. Harry Hook is swapped over to the Mercy, so they're going to just take a couple probably economy pushes here and just try to build up some ultimates.
So here, Dallas Fuel has swapped to Mercy. The idea of swapping to Mercy instead of Lucio is once again to enunciate the win condition for the Fuel, which is getting AKM to the God spot and keeping him there. They realized last fight that Custa alone was not able to respond to the pressure that was being put by the Gladiators onto AKM to keep him on the God spot. So they have a Mercy now to keep him better healed, along with the damage boost, Discord. Anything that jumps on AKM at this point is going to be almost immediately melted. AKM, on the other hand, on top of being on the God spot and being able to deal outrageous amounts of DPS, he can also peel for his supports in the way of using his healing station. Supports can double pocket him while he takes damage, can pocket each other, and stay on the health pack.
Everybody, clap your hands.
My phone ring. So we've once again continued to establish that the win condition here is to keep AKM alive on the God spot while the dive DPS take control of point and just do work.
We'll see what they can do with it.
Well, they want the dive to come in onto the high ground and try and pick off somebody, and if they trade 1-for-1, the resurrection's still going to be useful in spite of the nerfs.
Yeah, some damage boosting on AKM is nice. Well, unless both AKM and the Mercy are dead. Big Goose comes in, misses that sleep dart.
So this is fine. I believe this was the intention for Fuel because they brought out Transcendence and used no ults while building theirs. AKM is close to a visor. Custa should have his ult within the next fight and a half or so. XCC's already got his ult, which would help even more to take control of the point, and can combo with the visor to make easy plays, easy visor kills. So the ult economy for Fuel is actually looking quite good because they have no Transcendence, which means they have no counter to visor. They just have a nano, which they could nano Fissure, nano Surefour, or nano Hydration to build Blade. And just overall, Fuel has the better ult economy for taking control at this point here.
That's okay because the fight is already over.
Yeah, very efficient high ground attack from the Los Angeles Gladiators. Again, the Transcendence came out perhaps a bit early there from Shaz.
Yeah, late kill on Effect too. That's going to slow things down for Dallas just a bit more. Meanwhile,
Fissure. Chilling.
Yeah, hey, can't blame him. I mean, it's been a rough day, right?
The reason why he does this is it allows him to see around this corner. So there is actually a practical reason, puts him into the third-person cam. So he's just checking to see who's coming up the hallway.
That is true. Sees it now. The nano boost used. Fissure jumping in here. Who got it though? Gary a little bit low. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Hydration falls, so AKM was ready. Fissure exiting that fight. He didn't get any kills out of that.
So they made the choice of nano boosting hydration so that he can build his blade faster. And while he does a decent job of building it, the pressure that is made from Fissure is not followed up on by hydration. And this is a misplay that causes, that lets Fuel group up on one of them to kill them easily, in which they pick off hydration first, and then Fissure immediately, even through his ult damage. Starting this fight with 2 picks immediately due to a misplay by the Gladiators is huge for the Fuel. There's no pressure from anyone available to be able to take care of AKM being on the God spot. Knowing this, they come in very aggressively, use Visor, use their Monkey ult, and just continue the aggression onto the Gladiators.
Whoa, and he is launched via AKM. It's like he shot Winston out of his gun or something like that. Fissure down, AKM with another attack visor on the high ground. Can they finish it off? That's 1 tick now for Dallas already. It's a good start on point B. They've got the momentum. Now it's about killing off those respawns as they come.
So once again, AKM's on the God spot, and now he's being followed up by Harry Hook, who's going to damage boost and make sure that he stays healed in the midst of all the chaos. Anybody that tries to contest him now is like royally fucked. So the rest of this is probably just gonna be a stall from the Gladiators, although it looks like they've already taken the point.
Whoa, and AKM.
There's just about nothing that can be done there for the Gladiators. They made a misplay, which allowed the Fuel to take an aggressive push into the fight with 2 picks immediately. A Visor that didn't necessarily kill much. It got Bishu out of mech, but ultimately it kept people from being on the point and dying staggered, so that they could possibly recontest. But once they lost 2 people and the Visor was put into play from the Fuel, it was just stall left for the Gladiators.
Momentum now, it's about killing off those respawns as they come in.
And look at
So I would like to point out how Harry Hook only leaves Soldier, AKM, when the tanks need health. Custer does a decent enough job of keeping effect up, and for the most part Harry Hook is healing the tanks and making sure that he is within range of AKM so that he can fly back to him at any case. The Fuel, knowing that they have control of the point and the Gladiators do not have the resources to contest AKM anymore, don't need to pocket him. So they put more force and more effort into the fight on point, while AKM just rains terror from the God spot.
Here we go. Dallas Fuel on the defense. LA Gladiators on the offense, going for that dive again, but this time Shaz on the Moira, so something a bit different than what we see with the dive. Oftentimes. Huh, all right.
yeah, that's just to get onto the point.
So Fuel is running the same comp once again with AKM. The only difference in this comp is the lack of a Lucio or Mercy in Harry Hook on Ana. The intention with this comp is to pretty much blow up anybody that looks to jump on them. It's a comp that looks to just destroy anybody that jumps on them with Discords, Purples, AKM damage, XCC's dive, Mickey's missiles, that sort of stuff. Gladiators, on the other hand, is also running a standard dive with Lucio Moira. So the intention with the Moira is for her to join the dive, keep everyone sustained by grouping them up together, since they assume the Fuel will be playing in the back right with their intended comps. So their dive will be very clumped up together. There's not a lot of space here, not a lot of open geometry for there to be any issues with healing as Moira.
And to provide more pressure with the Tracer Tracer and the Genji most likely.
You do have people kind of bunched up on point A here, so Moira's AoE healing is going to be nice, especially if they all come in as a unit like this. A little bit of trouble for the back line, but sure for the first of all, AKM ready again. Big Goose gets the kill onto him though, so they do trade. Custa with a headshot onto Big Goose to finish him off. Shaz still alive for the moment. The brawl going the way of Dallas so far though. Yeah, and there goes Bijou, demeched already.
So Surefour dies immediately to what looked like a missile melee combo from AKM. The healers pocket each other to make sure that they don't die. The tanks are deterring any other DPS and whatever tanks they can from continuing the push. They're just basically denying space for the Gladiators to move in.
Yeah, and there goes Bijou. Kill onto him. A little bit of trouble for the back line, but sure for the first of all, AKM ready again. Big Goose gets the kill onto him though, so they do trade. Custa with a headshot onto Big Goose to finish him off. Shaz still alive for the moment. The brawl going the way of Dallas so far though. Yeah, and there goes Bijou, demeched already, and Shaz just gonna go ahead and reset there. I liked the concept behind it, but the issue was that AKM was just ready again. He gets the first kill in that fight. You try to dive this guy, and he ends up kind of winning that one.
It seems good unless they're running an Ana, because as soon as you dive in, there's a
That's a
biotic
good point.
grenade that anti-heals your entire composition, and then the Moira loses a lot of value. They may
Very
try
fair
this
point.
again, but I think this may go the same way as long as Harry Hook has a good bio grenade.
Not to mention you've got Mickey on Diva as well. You can eat those bionic orbs from Moira and shut a lot of that down. There's a grenade coming out. Custa falls early. Nice sleep dart from Harry Hook. Turns around, takes a page out of Chip's book there, but it may not be enough to stave off the Gladiators here in this attack.
So XCC kind of memed this fight. He jumped up on a weird spot looking to drop on the Gladiators or jump on them as they begin their dive to deny them the space. He did it a little too late because the fight was already about to begin for the Gladiators, and therefore he did not have his jump ready as they moved in. So for the first few seconds of the actual fight, he was not there, and all it took was a few seconds for Custa to go down. What the Gladiators did is that they jumped on Custa, who was a little too far up. They denied the Ana heals with Matrix and Winston Bubble, and just melted them down easily. From then on, the Fuel's defense is vastly weakened, as we're missing out on Discords. We're missing out on Ana heals because she's being deterred by Bubble and Defense Matrix. And it's just super easy for the Gladiators to take this fight. Once XGC does come into the fight, he's not put to much use because two of his teammates are already dead. Actually, three teammates are already dead. So, kind of a misplay from XQC. But also played decently well by the Gladiators.
Fisher with that primal rage, just trying to get everybody out of the way. XQC still alive, but not a lot of health left. He's not going to be able to stop this one. They'll finish him off, and it looks like that'll be point A for the Gladiators.
Yeah, the grenade didn't do much there. It may have actually been taken out by Bijou with the defense matrix. It was hard to tell on that attack, but regardless, Fisher with the primal rage going to be a tough target to deal with, and now the Los Angeles Gladiators going to try and push on through. Costa has the transcendent.
Hydration super low, and he gets taken out. Couldn't save him in time. Fisher falls as well, and that attack is done before it began.
Not much to say about this fight. This push was ended because Hydration took a little too much damage and died immediately with the ult that was the win condition for that fight. The only other way that fight could have been salvaged is if Surefour got like a 3k bomb. I'm sure the Fuel understood that. And so that's why they put focus into him so that he would die. And they will go into the next fight looking at Hydration once again, as I understand what is the win condition for the Gladiators. The win condition for the Fuel is to shut down the Blade.
Begins really for the Gladiators. No momentum there.
In fact, chasing Surefour back towards the spawn itself. Will fall to Bijou, but that's just going to be fine. He will have plenty of time to reset. So, Dallas Fuel sticking with their composition right now. AKM actually playing the low ground, which is something that we don't see all that often. XQC and Mickey trying to react to a dive on the point while keeping eyes on the incoming composition from the Gladiators.
That's right. Got cussed up on that high ground as well, as you often put the Zen. Meanwhile, Hydration sneaking around. He's got that Dragon Blade. Zoned out for the moment. Ooh, XQC jumped through the window. bit risky.
This is good defense right now from the side. Oh, AKM
boy.
got found by Sherfor. It was a pincer between Fisher and Sherfor.
Oh, that's the problem for Costa. He has to pop that Transcendence just to stay alive. Effect comes diving in. They're trying to push Hydration back. Gets the health pack, but he's going to need a bit more, I think. Maybe. Oh, barely staying alive. They killed the Harry who throw all that too. XQC, meanwhile, just playing, just juggling Bishu here. Finally gets him out of the mech. Meanwhile, some more kills come in for the Gladiators. Self-destruct doesn't pick up a whole lot. AKM gets Big Goose. One tick taken by the Gladiators, but with those respawns, Dallas trying to push this one back. AKM delaying for as long as he can. Here comes Mickey now. They've got the nano boost on him, and he's going to dive right in onto Bijou. There's a kill for him. Gets hydration as well, so they managed to turn it around. Nearly 2 ticks taken.
So this fight was summarized more or less with Gladiators knowing their win condition was the blade. They committed a sound barrier to try to get a good blade in, as that's comboed a lot. Unfortunately, Hydration was not able to get anything with his blade, as he immediately jumped on Shaz, who transcended it into oblivion. After Hydration's blade, there is focus put on him to deter him from the fight, and while he isn't killed immediately, he is not in the fight anymore. XQC is juggling Bishu in the corner to deter him from the fight as well. He cannot protect anybody in his team. And Gladiators does get a few more picks, but they don't matter. They're not important picks that suddenly win the fight for them. And AKM comes out with a visor, and while the visor does not kill a lot, it still continues to put sort of a deterrence for the Gladiators to continue that fight. After that, a nano comes out on Mickey, who gets a 4K, and really just ends the fight right then and there. With Mickey being pocketed by Harry Hook and Custa, and being nano boosted, he immediately just melts anybody in his path.
But the Dallas Fuel hold.
And they're going to go back down to that 1 tick now. Very good patience from the Fuel, waiting for the nano boost to come back out. And AKM to turn the corner and get the necessary damage. Started off a little bit awkwardly, because Sherfor and Fisher, once again, we saw this in their first match. Very good synergy between these two players. Sherfor likes to sneak around, and Fisher trusts him. So as soon as it looks like Sherfor is calling the attack, they will collapse on somebody instantly from 2 different angles, and that's exactly how AKM died.
Whoa, speaking of people dying, Shaz dropping early. That's a bummer for the Gladiators. No mercy to bring him back up again, so they will have to wait. That respawn, you don't want to fight a 5v6 on Hanamura point B here. The defensive respawns are just way too close to get some momentum going with that one.
Yeah, this is a change from last time. So what happened was, after AKM died on that last attack, Custom moves over to the Mercy, and now he's going to be babysitting AKM, but he can still quickly move with the dive, the Diva, and the Winston to come back onto the point. So I really like this transition. They are adapting to the tactics, and that's going to make it a lot harder for Sherfor to come around the flank.
Sure enough. Effect goes in. That pulse bomb got eaten, I believe. Yep. That one was sucked up by Bishu in the Diva suit. AKM running away now. He's got Fisher on top of him. Has to get back to the rest of his team.
Fisher can't win that.
That's right. He's going to have to go Primal Rage, dive into the back line. There's attack visor. AKM left alone. He'll get taken out by Bishu. Meanwhile, Mickey just trying to get to the high ground, trying to find a place to push the Gladiators back. They bought enough time here. AKM back in just a second, but Mickey D-Mech now, and there's Hydration coming in with a whole hog. Just trying to create some zoning on the point. They use it to get that second point here. Now the delay. Kills for Dallas Fuel, though, and as Hydration falls, that second tick is going to be all the Gladiators get out of that attack.
In fact, has to be really careful there. I realize he's not going to be the victor while the Biotic field is down. So
let's talk about their setup. The 2 tanks for the Fuel are set up here to deny this space here for the Gladiators, and if they need to counter dive either their target in AKM or the point. AKM here is being damage boosted by Custa, is within the 40-meter range, just about here, so he just rains hell from above, or rather from straight ahead, to whoever looks to come in here. Unfortunately, the Gladiators jump onto AKM, which causes him to fall back in this direction. And as the tanks follow him, Custa takes a lot of damage and dies. AKM tries to visor, but he also dies as well, as he doesn't have Custa to keep him alive.
But he can still quickly move with the dive, the Diva and the Winston to come back onto the point. So I really like this transition. They are adapting to the tactics, and that's going to make it a lot harder for Surefour to come around the flank.
Sure enough. Effect goes in. That pulse bomb got eaten, I believe. Yep. That one was sucked up by Bishu, the Diva suit. AKM running away now. He's got Fissure on top of him. Has to get back to the rest of his team.
Fissure can't win that.
That's right. He's going to have to go Primal Rage, dive into the back line. There's attack visor. AKM left alone. He'll get taken out.
So the tank rotation that happened there from the Gladiators was that Fissure was chasing AKM, but he realized that he could not win that fight alone. So he does as much damage as he can, and then goes on to another target, which is the healers. He uses his primal to get on the healers to make sure AKM does not get healed up, while Bishu takes over on the call from Fissure to finish the kill on AKM. Whether this was intentional or not was a good play and was good tank rotation to follow these calls.
By Bishu. Meanwhile, Mickey just trying to get to the high ground, trying to find a place to push the Gladiators back. They bought enough time here. AKM back in just a second, but Mickey D-Mech now, and there's Hydration coming in with the whole hog. Just trying to create some zoning on the point. They use it to get that second point here. Now the delay. Kills for Dallas Fuel though, and as Hydration falls, that's...
Unfortunately, the Gladiators don't make their picks fast enough, and the Fuel is able to respawn just enough with just enough time to finish up anybody left on point.
Second tick is going to be all the Gladiators get out of that attack.
Effect has to be really careful there. Realize he's not going to be the victor while the biotic field is down, so heads back to his spawn. Cute move. Fissure had the Primal Rage available, so able to zip past AKM while Bishu comes and deals the burst damage to finish the soldier off, but same time everybody cleaning up. Fissure on the outside of the point, especially Mickey, makes it difficult for Gladiators. However, they do get one tick, so it is a success.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you can have 3 of those kinds of attacks, you take the point, right? So now Gladiators, only one more attack to go here, or one more tick rather to go before they take it. Might take more than one attack, we'll see. Surefour gets a nano visor off. AKM down as well. He's got that high ground. Oh, now he gets knocked off, but he takes XQC down on the way. Tranquility comes in for Gladiators as well, or Transcendence rather. Playing too much WoW. The Gladiators on the point either way. They've got half the tick taken. Mickey D-Mech, that's going to be the ticket. Bishu D-Mech as well, so both Divas out of their suits right now. And AKM hunts down Surefour. Can they turn this one around? Maybe they can. Bishu falling here. AKM with just 13 health remaining. He's got to get some healing, and he can't quite do it. Custa can't keep him up. In fact, Custa needs to worry about himself there here. Fissure.
There's still 5 members of the Fuel alive on the point right now.
Oh, Custa taken down. It's a brawl going back and forth here, but it looks like Dallas is going to hold. That was a close one, though.
It does.
So a lot of interesting things happened this fight.
Those kinds of attacks, you take the point, right? So now Gladiators, only one more attack to go here, or one more tick rather to go before they take it. Might take more than one attack, we'll see. Surefour gets a nano visor off. AKM down as well.
So the Gladiators opened this fight with 2 immediate picks on Effect and AKM, and AKM is resurrected. Surefour is knocked off the high ground by XQC. Knowing how important the God Spot, or what's close to the God Spot, is for the Gladiators, XQC goes and knocks off Surefour and ensures that he stays on the ground and is a easy to dive target.
Got that high ground. Oh, now he gets knocked off, but he takes XQC.
He gives his life for it, but it doesn't really matter too much, as he'll have closer spawns and we'll be able to recontest soon enough.
Down on the way. Tranquility comes in for Gladiators as well, or Transcendence rather.
From here, you can see in the back that AKM has taken position on the God Spot, and Custa is using Valkyrie so that he can keep him alive in the spite of anybody diving him. Once AKM has taken the God Spot, he's gonna visor, and while he jumps off to try to secure a kill on Surefour, honestly, It was a smart play. It was a smart rotation in the midst of all that chaos from AKM.
Playing too much WoW. The Gladiators on the point either way. They've got half the tick taken.
I'm sure a well-known play from the Fuel is to have AKM go to the God spot as many times as he can, as long as it does not cost the fight for the Fuel.
They keep D-Mech, that's going to be the ticket. Bishu D-Mech as well, so both Divas out of their suits right now, and AKM hunts down Surefour. Can they turn this one around? Maybe they can. Bishu falling here, AKM with just 13 health remaining.
AKM drops down, secures the kill on Surefour, and continues to get pocketed by Custa amidst any damage on anybody else to secure the kill onto Fisher. Well, Fisher had his ult and he was not able to secure the kill. It was still a well-known thing for the Fuel to do, to pocket AKM and try to ensure that he gets his kill. Unfortunately, he gets purpled and you can't heal through that, so he dies as well. However, XQC on Bishu eliminates him from the fight.
Keep him up. In fact, Custa needs to worry about himself there here. Fisher.
There's so
So this is essentially cucking two supports within the span of 2 seconds. Fisher uses his ult, sends Harry Hook off the platform so that he does not have line of sight of any of his players to heal them. This effectively takes Harry Hook out of the fight for 5 seconds or so, which is about the same time as a respawn timer, so just a little bit shorter. He effectively killed Harry Hook without actually needing to kill him. On top of that, he denies Custa the res onto AKM, which is actually huge because AKM, we've known this, the Gladiators know this, can turn a fight all on his own through his superior mechanics, game sense, and positioning.
5 members of the Fuel alive on the point right now.
Oh, Custa taken down. It's a brawl going back and forth here, but it looks like Dallas is going to hold. That was a close one.
Once again from the Gladiators, although they made good plays and they had the right idea, they did not finish off their kills fast enough. So Mickey was able to respawn and recontest, even finish off Fisher. AKM was able to respawn in time. A big struggle for the Gladiators is that they're not able to take control of the point well enough and be content with their positioning and picks. Either they're being contested and sent off their positioning by the Fuel, or they cannot get their picks fast enough either by way of communication issues, positioning issues, or once again deterrence from the Fuel.
It was, and it shows that Mercy still very viable with that Resurrect. Had it not been for the Resurrect, AKM would have not come back up with the tack visor and helped to turn that fight around after the picks went Los Angeles Gladiators' way to start things off. So still a very viable hero used in these circumstances, especially on places where movement over high ground is so important and the Mercy can follow, like on Hanamura B.
Effect looking for an opportunity to toss that pulse bomb into the back lines, and he may find it here. Drops down to the low ground. He's just going to be patient with this one. Shaz gets the kill on the AKM. Great alt fire there. Probably right-clicked him. AKM gets res again. Pulse bomb comes in. Ooh, not enough damage to take down Fissure with that transcendence from Shaz. Meanwhile, Effect trying to finish him up, but Fissure with just a bit too much health. Effect needs to buy time. Surefour pushed back though. XQC using his primal rage to use up most of that tactical visor, but Surefour not taken out. He gets the high ground. There goes Fissure. Now AKM comes in with the superior tac visor. He's got the nano boost as well, and they've got the kills. And
so Gladiators come into this fight once again with the intent that nano visor is their win condition. And they even open up the fight with a pick on the AKM. XQC, I'm sure, has realized the win condition for Gladiators being Nano Visor, and he decides to no longer value his life. Go into Surefour's face with primal range as soon as the tanks go in.
him up, and Fissure would take down Fissure. Fire there.
So as you can notice here,
He's just gonna be patient with this one. Shaz gets the kill on
so as you can notice, Fisher is up on that platform.
AKM. Great alt fire.
Hydration drops down from the high ground.
Probably right clicked him. AKM gets res.
Fisher jumps in to offer support to Hydration.
Vault bomb comes in. Ooh, not enough damage
Is now deterred by Effect.
to take down Fissure with that transcendence from
Hydration pulls out a whole hog for some reason.
Shaz. Meanwhile, Effect trying to finish him
Shaz uses Transcendence on the high ground where his tanks are not being healed.
up, and Fissure with just a bit too much health.
The Nanovisor comes out, and XUC, realizing that 2 tanks are on the low ground and are not readily available to contest him, he goes up, uses his primal range, and makes Surefour's visor wasted. Completely denies it. This was a play by XQC, whether it was told to him or not, and was a very big brain play. It was him realizing that the biggest sources that kill him during his primal were not there, and the win condition was not being taken care of.
Effect needs to buy time. Surefour push back.
So he suicide Winston's and ensures that the visor is completely wasted.
Though XQC using his primal rage to use up most of that tactical visor, but Surefour not taken out. He gets the high ground. There goes Fissure.
AKM comes out with a nano visor that is also being damage boosted by the Mercy. AKM comes out with a nano visor that's also being healed up by the Mercy, just to add insult to injury. And there's nothing left for the Gladiators to use to keep themselves in this fight any longer. Their win condition was not taken care of, and XCC on the fuel played excellently to make sure that their win condition was not realized at all. Effect also was doing a great job putting pressure on the tanks to continue to inadvertently give support to XQC to shut down the win condition. So ultimately, we saw here the win condition was shut down in a very roundabout way. The win condition was not shut down by focusing the target and killing them, but rather focusing the people around the target and having one person who is aptly available to take care of the win condition make it wasted.
Now AKM comes in with the superior attack visor. He's got the nano boost as well, and they've got the kills. And with just about 15 seconds left, that may be all she wrote for Gladiators here on Hanamura.
It's going to be, with those 15 seconds in a team kill, AKM, both teams had a nano tac visor, but AKM's comes up later when they're committed to the point, and that's just going to be it.
Yeah, Surefour just kind of doing what he can. Nice stick on the Fissure from Effect, and they can't get to the...